Hi, I'm Kapil, a PhD student at Northwestern University. Today, I'll be talking about Orchestration Scripts, a system for supporting situated work. Workers think in a situated manner by considering how people and venues in the workplace can progress their work. For example, a student and mentor in a research community have weekly planning meetings to discuss the student's progress and plan deliverables. And ineffective work practices, such as if the student is overcommitting time on the following week's plans. However, our prior work has shown that situated work is difficult since it requires an awareness of work needs and the relevant strategies to use across venues in a workplace. And unfortunately, our existing technology falls short in supporting this. Suppose we wanted to coach teams to work within time constraints using Zapier, a popular workflow automation tool. Our first challenge is that existing technology lacks an understanding of the situations in which we work. To express this idea, we must actually encode the specific people, time, and tools in the workflow, rather than the work situation at the level of abstraction of the team, their mentor, and the planning menu. Moreover, the lack of these abstractions prevents us from expressing general work strategies that work across teams, requiring us to replicate any strategies for each team in the organization, such as here for Jane and Jill, like we did for John. Finally, these technologies overemphasize an automated approach to addressing detected issues. This fails for complex work due to uncertainty in the work process and tacit knowledge of specific work situations that cannot be encoded. For instance, a workflow may suggest that John should rescope plans if he's overcommitted, but in reality, there could be external constraints causing John to overcommit, such as needing to finish a prototype before a subsequent field deployment. Here, a mentor may instead suggest help-seeking strategies that are more appropriate for John's situation. To address these challenges, we introduce orchestration scripts, which provides computational abstractions of work processes, social relationships, venues, and tools to encode work strategies. It allows encoding general strategies that apply across people in a workplace but become tailored to their specific circumstances when enacted. And finally, it suggests strategies to people in the appropriate situations where they can choose to enact them if applicable. Our core conceptual approach is that workplace tools need computational abstractions of a organization's ways of working to alert workers of emerging work situations and specific work strategies to attempt along their work process. Let's take a look at how we use this approach in orchestration scripts. First, we provide organizational objects that serve as abstractions for referring to an organization's processes, social structures and relationships, collaboration venues, and productivity tools, along with any helper functions for common computations on organizational objects, such as getting the morning before a venue. We also provide a Studio API that serves as a backend knowledge base for querying data corresponding to organizational objects. The Studio API brings together information about an organization's work processes, social relationships between members, and collaboration venues. It also collects traces of data from the organization's existing tools, such as Trello for planning and Slack for asynchronous communication. We then define situated scripts that encode a general set of strategies to attempt when a work need is detected using organizational objects. For the early example of when a team was overcommitted, we first specify an applicable set that specifies who the script is for, such as all projects with an undergraduate students in a research community. Then, we write a work situation detector that determines when the script should run. Here, we use data from the project team's planning tools to define a condition for being overcommitted on plans. Finally, we write a situated strategy that specifies a message and a set of suggested strategies that can be discussed, such as ways to scope down on research plans or seek help, and when it should be presented, such as the start of a team's weekly planning meeting, and also to whom it should be sent, like the team's mentor over Slack. To run these scripts, we created an orchestration execution engine that, using the Studio API, checks a script for each project defined in its applicable set to see if the script's work situation detector has triggered. It then separately monitors each situated strategy associated with the detected situation to see if the opportunity for presenting them has arrived, delivering the strategy to specific people at the appropriate times, like the start of a team's planning meeting. This allows for us to have general situated scripts to be enacted across people in an organization in a way that corresponds to their specific venues and relationships with each other. Let's look at an example of how these abstractions can be used in an example from our paper's case study. So far, We've written a general script for when students are overcommitted on research plans, but we can use organizational objects to tailor them further for different project teams, as you see on the right. For instance, a valid strategy for a team could be to have them work together to replan and share updates with the mentor. Whereas for an individual, it might be better for the mentor to work with them during the planning session a bit first. Or alternatively, have them reach out to a peer, like an onboarding mentor that coaches new members in the community on effective work and planning practices. This shows how our system can create rich representations of work strategies to practice in our workplaces. We also conducted a field study to understand how orchestration scripts supported situated work in a research learning community. Our study involved 17 people across undergrad researchers, PhD students, and a faculty mentor. During a one-week deployment, we provided scripts that modeled effective work practices in the community, such as forming feasible research plans and using support venues across the week. Following deployment, we conducted semi-structured interviews with all participants to understand how situated scripts influence working and coaching practices. We analyzed our data using a thematic analysis approach to identify how the surface strategies informed users about their work situations and needs, and to understand if and how they enacted situated strategies. We found that orchestration scripts promoted awareness of work needs people would not normally check. For example, mentors wanted to know when their students were overcommitted on the coming week's plans, but in reality would focus discussions on what they already knew or could easily assess, rather than searching through the tool data to determine if a student was overcommitted. And students would often forget to raise the issue altogether. Orchestration scripts raise these at the start of a planning meeting, so mentors like Irene, who may not have checked in about planning with her senior student Amanda, saw this, and it became an important issue for her to discuss in detail during their planning meeting. Orchestration scripts also suggested relevant strategies for work needs at appropriate times. While it is possible to have searchable guides that mentors or students could refer to when work needs arose, they found it more helpful when orchestration scripts surfaced those relevant strategies at the opportunities to discuss them. For example, Robbie found it helpful to have the strategies for how to plan end-of-term deliverables at the start of the planning meeting where he and his students would discuss them. Finally, orchestration scripts supported students on addressing work needs across support venues in a community. While mentors would discuss how different venues could support students during planning meetings, we really had no way to actually enact those plans. Orchestration scripts provided these opportunities by prompting students and mentors throughout the week before collaboration venues. For example, Irene and her student Amanda discussed how Amanda could start working during their one-on-one after session without Irene actually needing to walk through the work process. This helped Amanda get a sense of what to work on, but also helped Irene reinforce this tone of Amanda thinking more independently, a skill she was trying to practice with her for many months. And so to summarize, the key idea of our work is that workplace technologies need to understand our situated work practices that occur based on the relationships we have with others, the venues we collaborate in, and how they're supported by a suite of productivity tools. And to close, I'll touch a bit on a potential future work for designing workplace technologies that embeds this kind of organizational understanding. Please see our paper for a broader discussion of our system and approach. For our existing tools, we can think about how we can embed this understanding as part of their existing design. So Slack has a handy reminder feed function that prompts people for activities, but, like with Zapier from earlier, requires us to currently specify people and time specifically. By integrating our approach, Slack could instead tie these reminders to different work situations, such as follow-ups with the project team after their planning meeting. This simple expansion would already help existing tools fit more naturally into our situated ways of working and thinking. Another idea is to think about systems that can contextualize activities across work situations. For instance, meeting notes are taken during coaching meetings, where students will bring in progress to discuss with their mentors and determine follow-up plans. But what might it look like if we could actually provide greater situational awareness of work needs and potential strategies through, for example, surfacing tracked orchestration scripts? Or even more, by surfacing context from other work situations and tools, like peer help-seeking interactions. Moreover, what if the discussed strategies were carried forward into other work situations, such as office hours with mentors or community-wide meetings, helping people focus their attention on which work needs and strategies to practice in these opportunities? These are questions that we hope to explore in the future, and through that, move towards a future where workplace tools are more embedded in the activities occurring across our workplaces and thus better support our situated work practices. Thank you for listening.